think the whole auction house thing is being overtaken by the guild stores?
It's a freaking horrible idea, and it is going to ruin things, not only for guilds, but for the single players as well.
I'm so glad you guys agree.
Because you are forcing people into having to join a guild just to sell your crap.
Well, you can still sell your crap to vendors.
To a vendor, pennies on the dollar.
Exactly.
I'm not sure I've really encountered anyone who's enthusiastic about what they're doing with the guild stores, and which is strange because it's like they're trying to do something new, but
I wonder
usually
if
like new gets people excited, but
I wonder if it's gonna turn into like a competition where guilds will be fighting against each other, just standard economics. I wonder if that's sort of what they're thinking, that we're gonna have these different like mega corporation guilds battling with each other for low prices. Like there'll be like a Walmart guild and like a Kohl's guild, basically.
We need to burn down the Walmart guild immediately.
Hey,
they're paying their workers crap.
Hey, how's it going, guys? I figured I'd join the after party if that's okay. I wasn't sure if I should have or not, but here I am.
Too late. You're already here.
He listed as my name on there.
Yeah, I know. Look at us. We're
Pod
like switching
Crasher.
identities.
There, I just coined a term. Pod Crasher.
Pod Crasher. Yeah, that sounds awesome. So it was a good show, you guys. It was weird being on the opposite end in like the chat and bizarre, but fun.
How do you think I feel being the one that's actually in it instead of listening to it live?
Yeah, that must have been fun also. Got thrown in at the last second.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. Force, what'd you think, man? Did you have a good time? I'm glad you showed up. It was fun to have you and Jesse. I said like from the start, it was going to be cool to see you and Jesse together again talking ESO.
Yeah, no, it's definitely fun. It's I think this is something that'll be cool to, as long as there's still room, do going forward.
Mark's like about here. You can
once
lie
a month,
if you want.
So.
It was terrible.
Yeah, you could totally. I mean,
sucked.
There's an interesting question from chat. So on the panel, we are all North America based, but they've talked about how they're partitioning the mega server for EU Oceanic.
Yeah.
I think it makes sense from a technical perspective why they would do that. I think though, do you guys know? It sounds like they said they were going to give people the option, like you can choose to play.
It's like any other MMO. You can choose to go from one server to another. If you're an EU player, it doesn't mean you're restricted to EU servers.
Some MMOs try to make that hard for you though, with like clients or IP detection that like makes it so you can't do that easily and you have to like proxy it or something. I mean, I think it sounds like they're going to have a more open system where maybe you're given the choice at like server selection or something. I don't know.
They've confirmed that if you're EU, you can play on a North American server. You'll just obviously have to deal with more lag.
The question is though, can you like switch between, or when you make that character, is it stuck there?
Probably.
Yeah, that's
There's
good
probably
question.
a cost
like
to
shared character database, or is it your characters on the North America
What
server?
I want to know, can you pay for an account change from PC to a different console or something? That's what I want to know.
That seems unlikely.
Yeah.
I mean, but the games are so similar. The only things are changing are the UI and stuff. So would it be that hard to take the data from one platform to another?
I think there's so many variables that go into that probably, because we're talking about moving a character along with all the equipment and money and like everything, like just economy wise, that might screw with things.
Might not be cost effective if it costs like so much money to do it.
I mean, if it were that easy, then why can't we just take the next step and have one giant server for everyone to play together?
Oh god.
Well, the reason against the giant
like a mega server
is,
yes.
is the control set.
Right.
I mean, console players might be upset about this, but they will be at a disadvantage versus mouse and keyboard. So
well, then also there's the notion that like maybe Sony doesn't want to cooperate with Microsoft and having games because we don't see a lot of.
That's definitely there.
That's I'm pretty sure that's why we don't see that in console online games crossplay.
But I mean, that point being there, going back to our previous discussion on Final Fantasy games, the PC players and the PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4 players can play together. It was like that with Final Fantasy 11.
I did not know that.
So it's not as if the technology doesn't exist.
Business.
Well, back to the whole EU versus NA servers. I think that's an amazing dynamic with EVE Online. how you're going to have a Russian corporation going up against an English-speaking corporation, and I feel like that's an amazing dynamic. I wish there was some way they could work that out where it could happen that way, but I can completely see where they're coming from, where they will separate it because of the lag and all that stuff.
Yeah, I think that's specifically a latency thing. I don't think EVE Online is that intensive in terms of you needing an amazing ping to do something effectively in that game. But like with the type of combat that ESO has, there would just be people at innate disadvantages. You'd just be attacking slower. You'd be slower responsiveness. So
speaking of options, when you're first like creating our character, like we're talking about choosing servers here, and it kind of makes me think again about the whole questionnaire. Now, this was something I was really excited about, was that we were going to get placed with like-minded gamers and stuff, and they did away with it like completely. Am I the only one that like, I don't know what you guys, I would like to hear your thoughts on that.
I bet you, sorry to jump in there, but I bet you from like just the perspective of a new player, they didn't want someone who was about to jump into Elder Scrolls Online to have to answer 5 pages of questions before they could get to playing.
I doubt it would be
I could
that
see
many,
that as
but
a
I understand what you
deterrent.
mean.
Yeah. Just like, oh, I really want to play the Elder Scrolls. Wait, I've got to fucking answer a questionnaire before I can play.
I mean,
they could make it optional. They could make it optional.
Yeah. It could be you don't fill it out at character creation. You can go into your options menu and fill it out like later if you want. But I mean, I guess not doing that, it may make it more difficult for them to cater towards role players. I feel like role players were the big customer segment that was going to at least help, like at least intended to help. Because if you could mark yourself as I want to RP, then they could put you in a game space with other people who want to RP. I feel like apart from role players, I'm not sure how much that would matter. Like
cares. Yeah.
It seems that they're pushing this whole guild system even more by removing this whole questionnaire thing, because if you don't join a guild and you are just going to be by yourself, you're going to be put with random people then, since you can't mark who you want to play with. Then you're going to be with just random people that are just probably, it's going to be like Baron's chat probably. So if you don't join a guild of like-minded players, then like even if it's a role-playing guild, then you're going to be screwed. So I think they're just really pushing this guild system. And then even more with the damn guild store.
Then the role players should do that. The role players probably should unite behind one guild, one like massive guild of role players. Now I don't know if there's guild caps or anything like that, but that would be nice. Because in WoW, everybody I remembered we downloaded, and that's another option since there is modding in the game. World of Warcraft had a modding community for the role players where they could actually flag themselves for RP. So like above on their nameplate or whatever, it would actually flag them for it. So you knew that those people would engage in RP. Because that's the biggest thing is trying to differentiate between people. Okay, this guy wants to RP, this one doesn't. I don't want to start like spewing these and thous to a guy that's going to be like, nerd, what are you saying?
I mean, and I think that's true. That's a problem, because I'll be honest. Back in my WoW days, there was a time where I was like, I'm gonna make a character in an RP server and own them all up because they're a bunch of noobs that suck at PvP. And like I'm sure if they did that questionnaire, they still deal with that issue. Yeah, people would be like, I love RP.
It's very true. Yeah.
Coming from the RP community, man, all I can say is, don't knock the RPers. They are much better at PvP than you think.
You know what ass. Well, that's because their life's dedicated to it. If their character dies, they jump out the window. So, so they have to be good at
valid
PvP.
point.
Yeah, that's all RPers. Exactly.
I've had my moments.
IRL.
I feel like the RP community, especially for WoW, has died pretty hard recently. Like, you can't go to an RP server and actually get into RP anymore. Like, it's just not around. Really, the only difference is that the RP servers on WoW right now, it feels like it's a much nicer community of people, but they don't roleplay. They're just really nice.
Yeah, that's typically where you would go to find like a more mature community. The same thing of like Star Wars: The Old Republic. It's pretty much the same thing. You'll find role players there, but it's not mutually exclusive. You know, you're going to find a much more adult community. You're going to find people that are, quite frankly, just nicer in general. And then we've got a show going on here.
And we have Lord Hammer beatboxing
and Mini Hammer there
with the baby.
So what's the baby's gamer tag? What do we call it? I don't understand.
Does he know his
Hammer
microphone's on?
Maybe a mini hammer. I think he doesn't even have his headsets. Can he hear us?
He's just
Probably not.
He's just ad-libbing.
No, I'm sure
clearly hammer time.
Yeah,
We're
I'm
trying
sure
to
the
have a
RP
serious
community is
discussion.
going to be huge. In
Can't
this
tell
game.
if that kid's like.
Oh, with the game,
Yeah, right.
or this huge, absolutely,
Yeah,
I don't think the live streamers can see you, by the way, Mark.
they can. But
they can just hear.
That's probably
Just
just bad.
beatboxing in the background.
Very, very distracting.
I think what Josh said is true,
distracting.
that guilds, if you join an RP guild, that'll do a better job of connecting you with like-minded players than a questionnaire ever would, just because people will lie on the questionnaire. I mean, all day.
And I mean, let's be honest. Again, with the exception of RPers, it's good to, like, it's an MMO. You're supposed to mingle with people who you don't necessarily share views with. Like, that's part of the experience. Like, being around people who aren't the same as you. And so, like, I think forcing that, I'm not forcing it, but making it so that you're
Stop forcing people, man.
well, you're gonna be with a whole different group of people. I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing. It's definitely going to be alien. It's so funny whenever I like read comments about this game. 50% of the comments are single player Elder Scrolls people who have never experienced an MMO, and they're like confused about some things, and that's understandable if they've never played it before. But it's just the dynamic of this game, I think, is going to be very different from probably any other MMO that I've ever played, given the split in the player base and what they're used to in a game. So
yeah, I agree entirely. I think like the best explanation, the best way to explain this in real world perspective would be like culture shock. They're stepping, this will be a whole new world to them. And it'll be very disorienting for a lot of RPers. So I would say if you're going for the RP thing, definitely like Andrew was saying too, find a guild before the game starts. That's going to cater your RP gameplay.
I think more important than like who you get put into a space with in the world is maybe like the density of players that they put into game spaces, because like Forrest said, you want to have that spontaneous social element where you unexpectedly mingle with people and run into people and it feels like a populated world. Mark. But you don't want it to be like crowded, like to where you're just like annoyed that there's people like all over the place, like looting your chests and like pulling mobs that you were gonna pull. And
that's a whole nother thing. Like on the day this game launches, because I'm sure you guys can all relate. I guess the best example I can think of is World of Warcraft Burning Crusade. The first day of that expansion, it's just, well, the first day of any MMO sort of expansion or launch, it's just flooded with people, right? And so I wonder how Zenimax is going to do as far as like distributing people with their whole mega server. Because if those like RPers or those traditional test fans are going in at day one and they're looting their chests like you're saying, and they're just they go into an underground dungeon and they're just everywhere, it's going to be pretty tough for them, I imagine.
I think the good thing is that the mega server innately, I mean, the game's like split up into zones, so it's gonna partition people off based on like density. I'm sure they're not gonna have one zone with like 1,000 people and then there's one sitting with 50. They'll probably split it up evenly, but specifically when it comes to like world interaction, when I remember playing at PAX East, and like it seems like they're doing a really good job with phasing. There was an instance where I did a quest where I had to go rescue this person, and so I walked over, I interacted with them, the dialogue happened, and then the person got up and ran back to town. A couple seconds later, I saw someone else who was also playing run up and then just stand in front of where that person was, but I didn't see anyone there. So like I did that quest. The guy left for me, and then I asked him, I'm like, were you just talking to someone? He's like, yeah, there's a guy there I just talked to for a quest, and he ran back to town. Okay. So like it seems like through phasing they're doing a good job of making it like stuff like that, so you can see what's relevant to you and other people will see what's relevant to them.
It also makes you look crazy because you're talking to someone.
Right.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I don't know if that's going to work with chests, for example, but it seems like at least with certain NPCs that they've got the phasing down pretty well, so.
Yeah, phasing, that was a great thing that a lot of MMOs carried over from. Was World of Warcraft the first one to do the whole phasing deal?
I don't think they were the first, but I think they were the first to like really implement it on a very large scale.
So like phasing without a load transition,
right?
As opposed, so like dynamic phasing, I think maybe WoW cornered that.
Yeah.
Can I get your guys' opinion on this? I'm going to be honest. I'm super excited for the Elder Scrolls Online, but I hate when MMOs segment zones with load screens. I hate it.
I agree.
So I think it breaks. That was one of the things that I probably, not knowingly at the time, but looking back on it, loved most about WoW is that I could walk from the top of one continent all the way to the bottom without a single load screen. And Elder Scrolls Online is going to have load screens. It kind of bumps me out.
but at least they like have you go through a door or something.
Right.
They don't just
Yeah.
you're not just walking through
at the
air.
same time, that's like removing the kind of realistic look at it, where like you can literally walk across or fly over some mountains and you're in the next zone. But like you apparently, I guess you won't be able to do that in ESO. Like you'll have to going through a door to get to another zone. That doesn't feel realistic in any way, shape, or form. You know.
I agree with that. I mean, I think that it's tough because they need to have geographic units where they can do the mega server partitioning, and they could try to go with dynamic phasing where it's like, you know, a seamless area and they locally allocate you and phase you in and out of game spaces. But I mean, that's a much bigger technical problem. I think, you know, you play Oblivion or you play Skyrim a lot, and I don't think you hear a lot of people complaining about load screens in those games, and they're everywhere. They're just really fast for the most part.
If you're on PC.
I mean, everyone hates slow
PC.
Everyone hates slow load screens. I mean, like a quick sort of fade to black, fade back in transition. I mean, it depends on how noticeable it'll be. I think.
It depends on how they go about it. Like you guys were saying, if there's a door, it'd be more okay. Especially since in all the Elder Scrolls games, every door you come up against, it's a loading screen. It initiates a loading screen.
Yeah,
it's not a huge deal. It's just a pet peeve, and like knowing that is the case, that means I'm 100% positive that I can't climb over a mountain into the next zone. But there's going to be some sort of invisible
there will be
wall
some sort of
you.
barrier, whether it's like a convincing mountain that it like just seems like you can't get I'm sure there's always going to be like spots where you can find a way to climb the mountain, and then there'll be secretly some invisible wall at the top of the mountain that normally you couldn't get to, but it'll be there.
Right.
I think that's just sort of one of the harsh realities of what they're doing.
Oh well.
Yeah.
There.
We should probably take some chat questions.
Yeah, maybe.
I was looking over there rambling.
I don't think there was that one question. What if they showed your character walking into the next zone as it loads? I mean,
that sounds stupid.
That's not going to make it feel seamless in any way, shape, or form because you're not controlling the walk. That sounds dumb.
That's like what The Witcher 2 does when you go into a building. You like lose control of Geralt, and he's like walking through the door, and then you're like on the other side of the door.
But that's still single player.
Maybe better than a load screen. I don't know, but not. It's still like it still takes you out of like you're controlling your character.
So someone asked about vampires and werewolf. Those aren't skill trees currently in the game, right? That's nothing
that I know of.
We wouldn't
They've
know.
talked about it.
Well, I mean, from what they've talked about, right, publicly.
They've said that they are going to have them.
They're going to be skill lines, yeah.
Yeah. So someone was asking about them, and it's probably just going to be skill lines. You're join the werewolf guild or whatever.
I don't know. If I become a werewolf, I want to transform into a werewolf.
Yeah, it's probably one of the skills.
I want to maul people.
Line,
If it's a skill, it'll be
like
probably an ultimate.
The ultimate.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly. An ultimate with something with like a long cooldown.
Yes, and very short duration too, not more than like 20-30 seconds.
Maybe with a passive of increased regeneration over time or something like that.
And vampire should like steal health or something as you attack or something like that.
I've been playing Smite some lately, and that Fenrir ulti where he just like hulks up, and then I can see that. I could see that.
So I mean, the question is there: what would you guys prefer, vampire or werewolf?
No.
I would like, since I'm playing Khajiit, I would like to play werewolf just so I can have that inner conflict of dog versus cat.
Cat dog.
Would you chase your own tail?
I would do it regardless, but you know.
Okay.
There was a question in there about Oculus Rift and ESO. I don't think it would work.
They're not supporting it. They've already said.
Yeah, because it was just they already have to deal with the third person versus first person view, That's just too much variation between playstyles.
Those Oculus Rift backers on Kickstarter, they must be getting those units just about any day now, right? Right? Any day now?
Maybe
next year?
I thought dev kits went out like this summer. I know that much.
I mean, yeah. I think some units shipped, but I know there's a lot of people who have said they still haven't gotten theirs.
Yeah.
Well, the same thing happened with you, yeah, so.
Let's see the question. Something that I was going to say during the cast before my internet crapped out on me is when we were talking about, God, what was it? Like the big PvE endgame stuff, specifically Adventure Zones. Yeah. And I was going to say, because everyone was arguing about the endgame for PvE.
Cheers, Mark.
And what I was going to say at that, it's good that he's coming back now. What I was going to say at that point is they've confirmed that Adventure Zones aren't going to be at launch, right? Which basically means the big group PvE isn't going to be at launch.
I brought up the same point in place of you, and I got shot down.
They went back on that though after
after
the delay.
Okay.
They'll be in, but the large group might not be.
2014 announcement.
Yeah,
they've been talking about Adventure Zones as a launch feature.
People are always running over me. I mean, is what it is.
And it's so weird, like with the messaging of this game, it's such a strange place for them to be because they're focusing on two really different crowds, the single-player Elder Scrolls crowds and the MMO crowds, and they're very different. Typically, there's obviously crossover with anything, but they're very different player subsets, and it's so weird. And like, I think even their live stream, that they showed, they were sort of trying to appeal to both at the same time. They're like, hey, we're going to show you a dungeon, but we're going to show it in the first person, which people probably won't typically play.
Exactly.
There will be people, but typically you're in a dungeon, you want to see as much around you as you can so you're not the idiot standing in the fire. Yep. So it's just a weird balance. It's just a weird balance that they have to strike when it comes to talking about this game and trying to appeal to both crowds, which are different.
Right.
Yeah.
I think pretty much everyone's Old Mary.
Old Mary.
Pretty much everyone.
I don't
but
even
not
want
everyone.
to say because I haven't played the game legit yet.
Vokandine.
You don't count though, so.
As far as all people in Vokandine, we're Ebonheart.
Great. We'll order a dark.
I would have been okay with Daggerfall.
No. Well, my shtick on the show is I'm the naked Nord, so. A pair of boots and a greatsword is all you need to get through life, son. He stepped away because he realized he didn't have interest in it. So now I run it. Yeah. He really just got the ball rolling, and I took over from there.
Hey, something I wanted to bring up before was the whole how the combat seemed kind of crazy, like a bunch of things were going on. It's because, like, okay, you have the test crowd that is not used to seeing several different people fighting a group, but then you also have the MMO crowd that are used to very structured fights where everyone gangs up on one person at a time and takes them out. On most fights you can't do that in ESO because apparently everyone seems like they're going to have to choose their person and stick with that foe because they're going to have to be interrupting and all this other stuff. And then they're going to have to be more self-reliant because everyone may have a little bit of a heal here and there. But then when it comes to like the boss fights, that's when the Holy Trinity seems to come in. Because then you'll have your dedicated tank healer DPS.
Not even truly for that, because everybody will be able to have their, everybody can have their small heal. So you could potentially go into an instance where everybody's got their sort of tanky survivability part and their healing part and their DPS part, so everybody can just be taking care of their stuff all at the same time. And then when you get to a boss, you can, whoever actually has the aggro at a time at that point in time will not be healing, and then one person with the best heal in the group can do the healing. So it's like not specific exact role taking. You can kind of split it and do it openly. Like in WoW, if I'm a DPS, I go in there and try and just full on blast this guy that's not getting hit by the tank. I can take the DPS, but you get yelled at. But in ESO, you should be able to, as a DPS, go in there and just be like, I'm going to take this guy. You guys can do whatever you want, and I can take this guy.
And weapon swapping helps that as well.
Right.
I was already thinking about doing that, yeah.
So with that, I think like that will be okay, probably in dungeons as you're leveling, smaller dungeons or whatever, or just more casual things. But like your example, for one, it kind of sometimes turns into a clusterfuck if everyone's doing everything and there's not much there's not much organization.
I concur.
I mean, you could organize it, but I think the other problem with that type of a system, and that was a problem in Guild Wars 2, is that without sure, you can be a DPS and you take aggro from a thing and be like, all right, everyone, I'm taking aggro, you guys do this. But if you're a DPS / healer / tank, you're not the best at any one of those.
Right.
So you probably don't have the best damage mitigation. You probably don't have the best threat. You probably don't have the skills to take more healing or whatever. So those specialized roles are still... And it is funny because I remember being excited for Guild Wars 2 because you could do whatever. But then I shortly realized, okay, I can do whatever, but I kind of also suck at everything. Like, I'm just mediocre compared to if I could be like a solid tank that could take like a beating for 30 minutes without having to get healed.
Well, I actually want to bring this up during the show. You'll have multiple paths for tanking. You'll have obviously a lot of paths for DPS, but don't you think healing's a bit restrictive? I mean, it's either healing staff or Templar.
It's AoE healing, right?
Healing is awesome. It's going to be awesome.
I hope it's more fun.
Because you're going to be in the fray with the people. You're not sitting in the background looking at raid frames. It's going to be epic.
I mean, I understand that, but with so many different skill trees, you'll have the opportunities for all these, different types of tanking abilities, all these different types of DPS abilities. But from what I understand, you have the healing staff of the Templar. That's it for healing.
We haven't seen all the skill trees yet.
There could be some other stuff, though. I mean, there's going to be 3 AVA trees.
Yeah.
There's going to be
guild line has
maybe extra guild lines. Werewolf and Vampire. I mean, neither of those seems like a healer. Vampire might have, like, life tap enemy
or something
allies,
like that. Yeah.
Something sort of like that. I mean, I think there's potential for them to work in skills that synergize with the healer's skill set in a lot of different skill lines that hopefully it won't end up being just 2 lines that healers get and everything else is not healing. I agree with you, though, that I think that if you really want to be a main healer, it's going to be hard to make an argument not to be a Templar unless they scatter some other attractive skills in other places.
Right.
Maybe that's not a problem. Maybe if you want to be the best healer, you should have to be a Templar.
Right. Well, I was going to say, I'm sure people who actually care to be the best healer probably don't care if they want to be a Dragon Knight too. Like, people who actually care, I want to be an amazing healer, I'm going to roll a Templar. Like, why wouldn't you? It's 3 extra skill lines that have to do with healing, or however many of those 3.
I agree with you, for the record. I think that it's okay if there's one class that's slightly better at a certain avenue of gameplay. I mean, if Nightblade ends up being slightly better than the other 3 classes at stealth, is anyone going to be shocked?
Yeah. I think the only people who might end up getting frustrated by the way the system is people who aren't familiar with MMOs and just are Elder Scrolls player, and so maybe they start off, they want to play as the Dragon Knight, and then they get to endgame and they start to get familiar. Oh, an MMO. Okay, I'm doing this group stuff with all these different people. I'd like to heal. Oh shit.
Yeah, and see that's I'm very afraid of that too, and I guess you guys, because I can't think of any real negatives to this, and hopefully you guys can maybe point out one. Why have the classes at that point? What if we just open the skill lines up to everyone? I know that would be at this point in development, maybe a balancing nightmare, but I don't know. Are there any real arguments against?
Well, I have an argument on that.
All right.
I think that if you keep mutually exclusive choices in the class lines, then you can put abilities in those class lines that are really strong or really cool or really, really potent or attractive in some way, and you can put 1 or 2 in all the different classes, whereas if you allowed people to mix and match without limitations, then they would just cherry pick those best abilities.
Well, then I would think we put those abilities, like World of Warcraft does, for instance. All the most powerful abilities are always near the end of the tree. So if you do want to snatch those high power abilities, you'd have to get that investment.
Given enough time, you can unlock all of those skill lines eventually.
Which then
I mean, you can get everything. So,
and do we know, like, I know they've set you. I know that you have access. You technically have access to everything, but there's not infinite levels, right?
No.
Levels have nothing to do much with
the soul shards or whatever the hell they're called.
You still gain experience, though.
Are there enough soul shards? Do we know if there's enough soul shards in the game to technically get every skill in every tree?
They've said you can eventually unlock everything.
They have. Okay.
Yeah, we don't know. We don't know the exact
gaining experience.
We don't know the exact count, but there are. So there's 50 levels, so you get those skill points
50
right
skill
there.
Points,
and then there's 1 skill point per 3 sky shards. And from the PAX gameplay, the newbie zone, for example, had 3 sky shards, and then the zone after it had 15 sky shards. So that's like, I think it's probably going to, the newbie zone was small in area relative to the subsequent ones.
Yeah.
So I mean, you're talking about a potential for maybe around 5 additional skill points per zone. And then also from PAX, when you completed the public dungeon and killed like the group boss at the end, you got a bonus skill point for that. So there's stuff all over the place where I think, especially when you bring in the 50 plus, not only do you get all the skill points you can unlock in your own alliance, you get to do those other alliances later. So
see, yeah, that's something I'm particularly excited about, and I think a lot of test fans is that we're going to be able to max out all of our skill lines and make that guy that's kind of the jack of all trades. But there's one real huge thing that's keeping that system from, I don't know, fully realizing its potential, is that we can retrain skill lines. So what's the point in maxing everything out if I can just go retrain my skills and invest them somewhere else?
They might just be doing that for like early leveling experience. If you level up DPS and then decide you want to tank halfway through, maybe you want to respec at that point. I mean, that's the only point it really makes sense to me, because like you said, we can eventually unlock everything. So
yeah.
Why would you respec if you're, it doesn't really make a lot of sense.
I mean, the attributes, you're assigning attributes into health, stamina, magicka at every level up. And so, if you want to be a pure glass cannon mage, you need the magicka pool to support spamming those abilities, So, I mean, I think that will play into the respecs. And then also your morph choices. So when you level up a skill to rank 5, you can morph it into one of 2 choices.
Right.
And it gives it sort of like a different flavor depending on which path you take. And that's something I assume you'll be able to respec also.
Okay, yeah. What about the cost for respecs? I always think that respecs should cost a lot more than just a money sink. I think that's what we get in most MMOs. I'd like to hear you guys' thoughts on that as well.
I think Josh knows mine. There should be like a quest tied to it that you have to do.
Yeah,
every
I would
time?
like a quest, yeah.
Same quest
So
every
time
time?
sync.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be, but yeah, there should be some kind of sync you have to do than just monetarily.
I mean, I think gold sinks are the most important thing out of that. I think that's what they're working towards with respecs. I think, they announced that when they'll have a death penalty where your armor will degrade and you'll have to repair it if you die.
Right.
I mean, I think, building up your mount, it sounds like that's something you could potentially, I don't know, who knows what it'll cost, but you could potentially dump a lot of gold into like beefing up your mount to have like really awesome stats. And that's kind of a cool system.
So maybe there's some sort of middle ground. I'm thinking back to Oblivion. I don't know if you guys remember the vampire quest line when you're trying to cure your vampirism. You have to like collect different ingredients like bloodgrass and stuff to cure that. It could be a quest like that where you have to go around and collect ingredients, and you could probably like skip through that quest faster by just flat out buying the ingredients maybe on an auction house or something like that. So it could be like a hybrid cross between either a quest or a money sink.
Yet another choice you can make in the game of ESO.
Yes.
Come on, Zenimax, you still in there? You writing this stuff down?
What other questions are there?
One place that I'm wondering if they won't have gold sinks. We talked about a couple places they might, but in an interview not also in the QuakeCon gameplay, Nick demonstrated that you can just like travel to your group mates. And that struck me as like a little, like you don't go right to them, you go sort of like to a safe spot nearby.
Which I like,
you could still do it for free, like from anywhere.
Oh, was it free? I didn't notice that if it costed anything, because that
maybe it had a cost and I didn't see it. It looked that
could be exploited, if you happen to have someone you don't feel like spending money.
I feel like travel costs is like traditionally one of the like cornerstone gold sinks of the MMO economy, and I don't know if, to me that sort of seems like a if it ain't broke don't fix it kind of thing, but I mean maybe Zenimax has something planned.
Well, I mean there's a travel cost if you do from way shrine to way shrine from what I remember, but
if you're at the way shrine then it was free. If you like report
right, that's right,
from not at a way shrine to a way shrine, there was a cost on that. That's true.
Yeah,
maybe there was a cost and it just didn't say what it was, but you would think it would at least tell you, oh, this costs like 1,000 gold. Are you sure?
It's funny.
But at least I like that they don't warp you straight to the other people, because that's just lazy. That's like WoW stuff and summoning stones.
I pray to God that's not in PvP either, because I think that'll destroy like group PvP. If you can just like, if two people, if it's like a 2v2 and you're like, we're gonna fight this small battle, it'll be awesome, and then they just summon like 10 people, you're like, what the?
It's a Zerg fest.
I talked with Brian Wheeler about that point at PAX. He's like the lead PvP guy on ESO, and I asked him that exact question. I was like, well, if you're gonna let people travel to group mates, what about Cyrodiil? And he's like, no. You have in Cyrodiil, you'll only be able to travel along like predefined travel lines where your alliance owns a network of keeps, and the keeps that there's like a travel network that is built
like
into the fast travel system in Cyrodiil. And the cool thing is, if an enemy alliance comes out and like wipes out one of the keeps along that network, it like destroys your travel line as well.
I think that's
how
you
can warp in before it gets destroyed.
Yeah.
So you can like have a mass defensive. That's communication.
Hopefully they'll make it to where like if the keep is under attack, currently you can't teleport to it.
Pretty sure they've said that. Yeah.
Like Guild Wars 2. Yeah, like Guild Wars 2.
Yeah, when it's in conflict, you can't get to it. Not by porting anyways.
Someone asked if there will be dual speccing, if you can do spec tank and hit, or spec as a healer. Well, you can have multiple weapons. Well, you can have. I mean,
I thought it was when you switch weapons, it was
there's weapon swapping. But that's not like the same thing as dual speccing, where you can also change all your morphs and stuff. You can't do all that.
No.
You can also remap all your abilities whenever you're not in combat.
Right.
So I mean, you could like completely change from tank spec to. I mean, you have to like swap your gear out, and you'd have to like rebuild your hotbars, but you can change.
But I mean, yeah, you could have two sets of gear, one for tanking, one for not. And if you unlock all the skills in healing and unlock all the skills in tanking, which you can do in this game, then technically, it's going to take a long time, though.
Yeah, just the skill morphs wouldn't be able to change, though. So it wouldn't be like a full-on dual spec, but close enough.
Right. You know, what they said, exactly what you just said about carrying like a separate armor set with you, that will be imperative if you want to do any sort of dual specking thing, I guess, in a sense, because what Zos has been telling us is that in fact, your armor is more important than even the class that you choose at the start of the game.
Keep in mind your passives won't change, though, so you'll have to have all of those passives unlocked.
Yeah, because the armor sets are their own skill line as well.
Yeah.
Here's an interesting question. Someone was asking, are you going to be at a disadvantage if you don't spend your time looking for all the sky shards? And just to answer that really quickly, yes and no. Yes, you'll be at a disadvantage because you might have a smaller pool of overall abilities to choose from. But no, you won't actually be at a disadvantage in combat, because in combat, you only have 12 abilities. You know, you've got 6 per bar. And, you know, you're going to have 12 abilities by level 12. So, you know, as of level 12, if you knew this is exactly the build I want to be, these are exactly the abilities I want to use, you would never have to pick up a single sky shard. You could just slot those 12 and you'd be good to go. The sky shards are just about like giving you more options so you can play around with your ability set when you want to.
And it doesn't... Go ahead.
I was just going to say, and unless you want like a completely organic experience, Once the game goes into open beta, there's going to be a wiki that gives all the locations, so you can look it up and find them one afternoon. It'll be that easy. So
now, Sky Shards only reward us with skill points that we can put into abilities. It doesn't give us like mana or stamina. Doesn't give us the option to invest in there, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean it's optional, but you'll probably have more fun. You'll probably have more fun if you do it.
Yeah, man, that's what this game is about. Exploration. That's what Elder Scrolls is. And they won't be hard to spot with the giant light beam shooting out of them and everything.
Can I bring something up that we didn't really cover during the podcast?
Go for it.
So in the Q&A that they had with Paul Sage, there was somebody that asked a question about customization for crafting. And apparently they already have in the game an ability for crafters to name what they make specifically, like for whatever the hell they want, and they're looking into other customization of the crafting. And I think that's the coolest thing I've heard about any MMO is like, if you make a piece of armor, you can put your logo on it. So like people can start a brand in the game. I think that's amazing. What do you guys think?
See, I like the way you think, because you think that people are going to act responsibly and use it for good.
I think
all around.
Like,
oh gosh.
A lot of penises.
A penis saber of slaying.
The anal raper, yeah, it's gonna be bad. What did you say, Kyle? The bloody tampon? Oh god, yeah, it's gonna be bad. It's gonna be
Why'd
bad.
you have to bring that up?
Oh, because that's.
I didn't think in the gutter immediately. I'm sorry. So what are y'all's thought on it?
Like I said,
the gutter.
Yeah.
Welcome to MMOs.
I would love to start my own shop to have my own brand. Be like, oh, that's Road's sword. It's completely useless, but I'll hang on to it. I would love that opportunity.
Yeah, how cool is that, right?
Well, since we're on crafting, the QuakeCon interview with Nick Conkle, he had mentioned something very interesting, which was rune crafting, which had never been mentioned before that I've seen, and I read freaking everything. Do you think that was a slip up on his part, that he had mentioned something maybe he shouldn't have, like he's done before?
Yeah,
yeah.
Well, are we just assuming that rune crafting is basically like gem crafting?
I'm thinking it's more of like a permanent armor mod, where you have enchanting for weapons. Those, they wear out. You have to recharge them. Runes are like permanent engravings you would put on something that then increases its stats or magical abilities or something.
So like glyphs in WoW? Like that's
yeah, exactly like that. You would slot it or something.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I think that's pretty a standard system in MMO, something like that. If that is in fact what runes are, or whatever he called them, rune crafting.
Rune crafting was a profession that they didn't even mention provisioner, by the way, the cook. They mentioned rune crafting. Like, well, what the hell is rune crafting?
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting that they didn't mention provisioner, like deliberately didn't mention it. Although it might not mean it's out. It might just mean like that's something like making food is something everyone can do.
It's going to be like fishing. It's going to be one of those side things you do if you're really bored.
Yeah.
I don't know. I kind of want my own brand of beer now. The Naked Nord Brew.
That
was good to me.
Awesome. Yeah.
Any other questions?
A while back up, there was a question about what class everyone planned on picking and why.
Whatever I find out in the beta is the most OP. It's the one that I will play.
Fair enough.
Of course, you're a PvPer, aren't you? I feel that coming from you. Yeah.
I do the PvP from time to time. Yes.
Yeah.
Did you see the Nightblade in that video though? The live stream. Did you see how long that thing went invisible for? The whole fight, it was invisible fighting things until it got hit. Then it got pulled out, and I didn't know that they can be invisible that long.
I actually wasn't sure if they were having like full-on invisibility or if you were just going to be crouching around everywhere in PvP.
You look like the Predator. You look like the Predator running around because you can sort of see it. I don't know if maybe enemies will see something like that or if you'll be completely invisible.
If it's
but the
full-on,
friendly saw like Predator walking around.
Like a chameleon effect going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, stealth characters are always so fun in PvP. So
they are, yeah.
I think they especially will be in this game because of the way that Cyrodiil is going to be set up with like choke points and tactical.
Ganking time.
Yeah, there's going to be lots of ganking opportunities.
Okay,
So
here's the perfect time for this conversation, since I've got like a bunch of you in a room here now. Me personally, I love the idea of being able to go into enemy faction zones while leveling up, not for the sake of ganking, but just to be able to be there. And if people want to engage in PvP with you at a low level, they can. I was really upset when I found out that that is not going to happen in this game. Does anyone else feel that way?
That is my only
compromise.
complaint so far about this game, is the fact that I can't encounter other people except in Cyrodiil. And that's both from the PvP aspect and from the role player aspect.
And you know, and it's people immediately jump on, oh, so you just want to gank people? It's a simple, like World of Warcraft does a flag system where if you're in an enemy zone, they have to attack you first before you can touch them. I'm cool with that. I will die once to have them flagged for 5 minutes so I can come back and kick their ass.
And get them.
Like, I'm cool
all the time
that.
in the Eversong Woods and stuff. Blood Elf territory. Oh man, that was fun.
But I guess I love that, and I think that's a ton of fun. But I'm just assuming that they're trying to funnel everyone into Cyrodiil, so that's why they're not having it. But it doesn't even like make sense lore-wise, because if there's this huge epic battle, we would have people behind enemy lines trying to do crazy stuff. Like
that's what we have NPCs for.
I don't know. It made me sad, and it's not going to come in the game, but I wish it would.
I think it's a compromise, though.
I agree completely.
Two things to point out, and I agree. I would like to have that full open world experience, but first, I think open world in Cyrodiil. I think Cyrodiil is really going to have an aspect to it that genuinely feels like open world because of the sheer size of it, and because of the way that they're scattering it with PvE objectives, dungeons, towns, crafting ingredients that you have to get out there and harvest only in Cyrodiil.
Yeah, so people will be there.
There's all these like tasks that players are going to be doing regularly in Cyrodiil that aren't like, okay, I'm here to take a keep, I'm here to, burn down a village or whatever. That'd be cool. I don't know if you can burn down villages. I hope so. Pillage. I want to pillage.
I thought I was the sick one here running around naked all the time, but look it up level.
But yeah, and the second thing is, like you said, they want to be careful not to cannibalize their own like cornerstone content, because if you can go gank, in like a lobby zone of another alliance, then you're going to be doing that and not in Cyrodiil. So I have to be careful, like that they don't. But does that
mean Cyrodiil's flawed if everyone wants to do that because it's more fun? I mean,
maybe it's more fun. Maybe it's just easier. Maybe you can go get kills.
Well, only if they attack me first.
Yeah,
I don't know.
But people will though. People always do. People always get baited by the PvP flag. I mean, all you have to do is just go bunny hop in circles around them while they're trying to quest, and eventually they'll be like, screw this guy, and then they'll attack you, and then you own them, and then it's like, shouldn't have done it, buddy, but you know they will. It's predictable.
It just, I guess for me, it just comes from my past experience. Like, some of what I've enjoyed the most in MMOs in the past is being someplace I really shouldn't be, and just kind of hanging out there with one or two friends for like 6 hours and just kind of doing whatever, you know what I mean? But c'est la vie. It's not in this game. That's something that frustrated me in Star Wars: The Old Republic, because there was like all these different worlds that you had to like fly to. You couldn't go to certain enemy worlds, and I was frustrated for the same reason in that game. Unfortunately,
because the way they go about it, it's artificial. Yeah. It's an artificial barrier is what it is. It's like, oh, I can't go there even if I wanted to. So Cyrodiil, because I hear a lot of people asking that they want like a PvP server, and the Elder Scrolls Online doesn't really have that. So they have everyone on this mega server. Now Cyrodiil, how huge is it again? It's like 8 zones big or something like that.
9 zones, yeah.
9 zones huge, and it's got plenty of PvE like you can quest and do that sort of thing too. So if you want to do that PvP server thing, I guess you'll just be hanging out in Cyrodiil all the time and leveling there.
I think there's really going to be that behind enemy lines feel that you can get if you want it.
Yeah.
I mean, so there's going to be this network of keeps, and because of the ownership of those keeps and how that's changing over time, there's going to be sort of a sphere of influence for a faction. But if you ignore what the front lines of that sphere of influence are, and you just gun it for like their portal keep, like their main point of origin where they're traveling into Cyrodiil, there's going to be little towers, there's going to be little outposts around there where you can like set up shop and gank people as they're like running past to get to the front lines. So I think it's not going to be a true like, okay, I'm going to go into Skyrim and kill people as they're questing, but I think you can get that sort of behind enemy lines feel where it's like, I really shouldn't be here. I'm like living dangerously, but I'm going to kill some people who don't expect it.
Yeah.
I hope at least. I mean, Dayak had that, and that's sort of why that's what I'm basing this hope off of, I suppose.
I mean, it's fair, right? We got those developers are on the team, so hopefully we'll see it again.
Yeah.
Can I change the subject a tiny bit before?
Before you guys do, I think I've got to take my leave. So thanks for having me in the Q&A. And
I'm gonna have to bail soon too, but
I'll see you guys next time.
It was great fun.
Take it easy.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming.
Take it easy.
See ya.
I guess should this be the last topic? It's still kind of sort of PvP based.
Sure, we'll make it the last one, but there's serious pressure on you now. It's got to be really good.
Yeah, it's got to be good. The finale.
The bounty system, how they're not doing it on launch, but how awesome would that be to be able to put a bounty on somebody's head? Somebody asked a question about it, but I've been thinking about it the whole time.
Can I go with this right now?
Go for it.
Being as I feel like I'm the only Ebonheart person here, and that's because I am.
Well,
I just want to say
too, but go on.
Oh, okay, then awesome. I will exclude you from this next comment then. Everyone that's been present part of this cast, and I said this when I had Joe and Varwin on our show, I want to track you down and kill you in the friendliest way possible.
Yep. Go for it.
Yeah.
I'll have, 50,000 minions around me, probably all naked, called the Shoddy Cast, with an E. But, go for it.
You have my people! I'm the Naked Dorn. Alright, you're spared, but everyone else, I'm sorry.
I think it'd be awesome if they had a built-in bounty system, but I think that something like that can evolve sort of in an emergent way, and I've seen that happen in past games. If there's like a community figure or a community personality that people that gets a reputation, or like I've seen like on message boards some people like offering virtual gold for like videos or screenshots of him getting like wrecked in PvP or something. I mean, and it's not it's different than like a built-in solution where you're posting a bounty and then someone like checks it off and you just get like pop gold into your inbox. But I mean, somehow I think sometimes that like community angle of it happens organically like that can be cool too.
Totally.
Well, I want it to be in the game that when you post the bounty for somebody, when somebody brings you literally the item of that character's head, you have to give them the money.
It's like Diablo ears
all
over again.
That'd be good.
I could see that come in with like the Dark Brotherhood, man. That'd be awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have to bring their finger back or something. Oh gosh, that'd be cool. But yeah, back to what Andrew was saying. I remember in World of Warcraft, back before we had a better loot system, we had what was called ninja looters, who would take loot that wasn't theirs, and that would happen. People would get hits called out on them if they were ninja looters.
Rightfully so.
Yes. Yeah. Ninja looters, special place in hell with people that talk in theaters and rapists. All right.
Did you say people with beards?
No, I said... You're all sensitive now. I said people who talk in theaters.
Oh, wow. That's never mind.
And with that note, I think we're ready to,
One last thing. They don't have duels yet. They don't have it, but they will. I feel like they will, but go. Yeah, all right.
Final note of hope there. All right, guys. Well, it was fun as always. I'll catch you later.
Yes.
Yep, right on.
Fun,
Keep in touch.
We don't have the live streamer to end the stream, so...
Yeah, so it's just going to be going
It's
on.
going to be awkward silence.
It's going to be the never-ending shot of Mark's office.
Yeah, you can have a live stream of his office. All right, guys.
Bye, everybody.
Boy.